Hello and welcome to this collective reading. I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me here today. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and a brand new welcome to those of you who haven't. It's great to have you here. My name is Dylan and I'm going to be pulling some cards for us all as a collective today to see what wants to come through. So as this is a collective reading, as always, take what resonates and leave the rest. Hopefully you'll find some helpful wisdom and guidance through the cards today. So before I pull any cards, I did have an inkling as to what we're going to be looking at as a theme today during this reading, which is often what happens when I sit down to do these. So I had the words come through of nip it in the bud. So if you're not familiar with this saying, it basically means to stop something before it develops. So this could be a route that we're going down that isn't necessarily good for us, or, well, let's see. Let's see what the cards say. But there's a definite kind of message of really stop something before it starts up properly. Let's see what we've got here with the cards. Shaman. Okay, so I just heard like we have the power to change things. So if you think about the shaman here, this is the magician in the traditional tarot. Hopefully you can see that okay, still working on lighting at the moment. We've got the power to change the course of things. Okay, so sometimes we get really hooked on this idea of like fate, and things are fated to happen and we have to go through these things, and that's the way that we always learn, through difficulty, let's say. But I'm feeling from this card that actually we have more control of this situation than we think. Whatever this is for each of us, and it may be different for everybody, something may have got started, something may have been set in motion, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't backtrack or change our minds. Sometimes we can become so fixed on the idea of committing to things, committing to everything, maybe not letting other people down, that we are afraid to backtrack, even if it's to our own detriment to keep moving along a certain path. So I feel like this shaman card is saying, look, you know, we've got the tools, we've got all of the things that we've learned along the way, and we can actually tap into that. I feel like there's a lot to do with intuition here as well, which is interesting. Something otherworldly, some kind of gift that we may have that actually maybe we use to help other people a lot, but we don't seem to use it very much to help to guide our own selves, to guide ourselves through situations in life. Now, usually I would say, like in this deck, it's the seer for the high priestess. I would usually say that's more to do with intuition, but I'm actually feeling like there's a balanced energy here between the magician or the shaman and the seer energy. It's interesting. I've just got this sense of, it's almost like being bombarded by clues. That's what's coming through, like synchronicities and signs that are saying, you know, look, listen, just be careful moving forwards. And if we don't feel to completely backtrack, we can just sit back and watch a situation without having to throw ourselves into it. Spoken by an Aries that has done that a lot in his life. I've often just thrown myself into things. And if you have that kind of tendency yourself, learning to sit back like this shaman is doing here, he's just sitting back kind of watching, he's got his hand out like this, and he's directing what's happening. So it's sitting back and knowing that we do have more control, like I said, over a particular situation. So whatever this is in your life, if something's been making you feel a little bit daunted or scared or even triggered, the word triggered just came through, you can stop it. You don't have to follow this track, you don't have to follow this path. You can decide to take a step back. So that's interesting. Let's get another card from the Wildwood Tarot. You know, this could be some kind of pattern or behaviour that's resurfacing from the past, that's coming up now, that actually we can change the way that things work this time. We don't have to keep falling down the same hole in the road. There's this story, I often recount this actually, I think I've told it quite a few times in my Patreon group, The Inner Circle, that, you know, there's this story about the hole in the road, and you know, the first time we walk down the road, we fall in the hole, we don't know it's there. The second time, we know it's there, but we fall into it anyway. So the third time, we kind of teeter on the edge and we still fall in. And then the fourth time, we manage to walk around the hole. We don't make the same mistake. And in the end, there's no hole. And this is what happens when we change our beliefs, our patterns. And in that sense, you know, we don't have the same emotional charge and we don't fall into the same difficult situations that maybe we've put ourselves through over and over again in the past. So we've got the Five of Bows, we've got empowerment here. It's a very strong masculine card actually, as you can see. And of course we've got the masculine energy of the Magician here as well. So we can actually exert some force over this situation. That's what's coming through. And I'm not putting that forward as exerting force over other people, which is what could be construed from this card in its natural form or its traditional form, which is more of a combative kind of, I don't know, like a fight kind of energy. And I'm not really feeling like to be fighting other people. I also just heard pick your battles as well. This is more like maybe being in some kind of conflict. That's the word I was looking for. Conflict energy. It's more of a conflict within ourselves maybe that we're experiencing. But again, we're actually more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Maybe in the past, like, I just heard the words, this would have knocked us off our perch. So that's interesting. It's almost like this thing of something that comes in from left field and it's a trigger for us, and then it can kind of just spin us out somehow, like I said, knock us off our perch, and then we get very distracted by this thing, and perhaps we're so stressed and triggered by it that we can't focus on other things that we need to focus on in order to carry ourselves forward in our lives. So that's really interesting. Again, like I was just saying before I pulled this card, I was talking about some kind of behavior or pattern. This could be something along the lines of, let's say for example, an attachment style that we have. If you're not familiar with attachment styles, then you can look that up. This can be something that can make connecting with other people difficult, taking the action that we need to take for ourselves difficult. That could be made difficult as well. So just check in with that. Like I said, if you're not familiar with that, you can Google attachment styles. You might find it really interesting. But there's some kind of inner conflict, and I'm getting like a push-pull and a side-to-side, and then it's a little bit disorientating. It could feel a little bit stressful at times. But like I said, like with the theme of this reading being around nipping something in the bud, we have the choice as to whether we pursue whatever this is or not. And I just heard there's no weakness in not being ready. That feels like a really powerful message. Sometimes we can feel like we should be ready to do a certain thing or move into a certain situation or move into a relationship or do something, you know. And if we're not ready, we're not ready. And I think sometimes we can be very hard on ourselves and be like, oh, why can't I just do this thing? Why can't I be like everybody else? Or, you know, sometimes things feel more difficult for certain people because because they've had particular traumas. So if that's the case for you, then give yourself a break. And it's funny as well because in those situations, maybe sometimes we can feel weak, you know, like we're not strong enough to do this thing. But like I said, if you're not ready, you're not ready, and things happen in the right time anyway. So the funny thing about that is though that we are actually stronger than we think we are. So even though we're not ready for this thing or might not be ready for this thing, we're still in a better position than we have been in the past. So there's a real sense of empowerment here of being able to stand back or sit back and evaluate and look into this situation, whatever's going on, to just remember that actually we're in control of our own selves. Like we steer our own ship. And if we choose to nip whatever this is in the bud, then we can do that. If we choose not to, then, you know, there will be a reason for that. Maybe there's some lessons we can learn along the way. But there is something here that is kind of guiding me to say, do nip something in the bud. But of course, use your own discretion, your own intelligence, your own intuition with whatever this is, because it'll be completely up to you. This is just a reading to suggest certain paths or certain ways of moving forwards. So let's see what else the cards have to say. We're going to work with the Tarot of the Hidden Realm now, one of my favourites. Six of Cups. This is something from the past, for sure. This is an emotional reaction, an emotional tie, an emotional bond of some kind that may have affected our ability to act in a clear way. It may have been some kind of attachment. You know, I was talking about the attachment styles or the attachment theory. whatever this is, I feel like we need to be patient with ourselves. Hang on, let me get a drink. Yeah, we need to be patient with ourselves. We need to be kind to ourselves. So if you're feeling, I just heard the word rushed. If you're feeling rushed, even if it's by yourself, sometimes we can feel rushed by other people. Other times we can rush ourselves into situations, like I said, that we're not ready for. There's something about needing to be more tender towards ourselves, and I feel like if you haven't experienced a lot of tenderness in your lifetime from other people, it's really important to give that tenderness to yourself and to be very kind to yourself. Often this card makes me think of the inner child. It's like this kind of childlike innocence almost. In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, there's a child giving a gift to another child, and there's just this very innocent, beautiful, soft, gentle feeling to it. So I feel like that's the way that we could focus on ourselves right now, is to be very kind, very gentle, and very giving, very patient. Something is going on here that is triggering something very old, and it feels like quite a big thing. I just actually had a vision then of a pin being pulled out of a hand grenade. So whatever this trigger is, it has the potential to throw us into chaos. There could be an explosion of inner chaos, and then very often we can kind of make chaotic things happen in our lives because of that inner chaos. So again, there's this sense of sitting back and just knowing that we have got this and we will move through this eventually. It's just, at the moment, these things need to be felt. And I just heard the word processed as well. So there's something about whatever's coming in that maybe doesn't feel right or we're not ready for. When we nip it in the bud, when we take a step back, it gives us the chance to feel into why it is that we feel triggered by that thing. Whatever that may be, the situation could be different for all of us, as I said. I love that card for that. There is a real need for, I don't know why I'm itching so much. There's a real need for respite, is the word that I just heard as well. Take a break, take a step back. Oh, okay, card jumped out. It's on the floor. Yeah, okay, perfect. We've got temperance here. Blending, merging, balancing, alchemy. There's something that we're alchemizing within ourselves by moving through whatever this is, through this old pattern or this old behavior resurfacing, or this old trigger or this old way of viewing things. Actually feels quite visceral, like a kind of churning energy that comes through, a little bit of, or quite a lot of fear, anxiety, difficulty focusing because we're being kind of jostled around. I'm feeling it's almost like being in an emotional washing machine. That's what's just come through. Again, talking about that internal chaos, like I said about the hand grenade with the pin. With this temperance card, we are being invited to create more balance within ourselves, taking time out if we need that to be alone. Maybe you can carve out some space to just kind of breathe and let this thing be there. Now, I do feel this is the temperance card, so it's not in any suit. It's not in any of the, like cups or wands or any of those things. It's a major arcana card, but I am noticing these two cups in the card that she's pouring liquid back and forth to and from. And there's something that's informing us. The word inform just came through. There's something in our lives that we're interacting with, or it could be a person, that is informing us that there's still something that's unhealed within us and something that still needs to be alchemized. And I feel like it's this thing that, like I said before, well, why is this happening again? Why can't I just whatever? I'm feeling like this is being dragged up or dredged up for a reason right now. Because eventually, like I said about the hole in the road, there won't be a hole. But for now, there is still a hole, and we may be falling in that hole. Or maybe it's the time where we manage to walk around it. Or maybe it's the time where we fall in, but we're gripping on and we manage to climb back out again. That actually feels more apt, because this is like that nipping it in the bud, kind of stopping it before it develops, so we don't drop into the hole fully. We're actually clinging to the side, and we can choose to climb back out again. We don't have to fall into that old behaviour. We do have the wisdom and we do have the inner power actually to be able to make this a very different experience this time around. So with the Temperance card, I'm feeling like this Sagittarian energy, and it's feeling like a journey. Sagittarius energy is very adventurous, likes to explore, likes to learn, but I'm feeling like we're exploring our inner depths is what could be happening at the moment while this transformational period is taking place. Maybe the thing that we need to nip in the bud is actually a distraction. It could be something that's taking our attention away from our own healing, from our own path, from our own expansion. You know, Sagittarius is all about expansion as well. So it could be something that's, like I said, very distracting, taking our focus, taking our power, because what we focus on, you know, we give power to, and what we give attention to grows. And so if we're giving our focus to something else and that's growing, then we're taking that focus away from what we want to grow and shift and change within ourselves. Yeah. So definitely with these, why am I so itchy? Sorry about this. Definitely with these dragonflies in this card as well, there really is a lot of deep transformation going on. I think I mentioned in one of the recent videos about dragonflies being born like they are larvae underneath the water. And, you know, there's all of this, like, it's like almost like a primordial underwater depth kind of feeling that I'm getting that we're in right now with these waters as well. In this Five of Cups card, Six of Cups card rather, she's half submerged. So we are in a process of deep inner emotional healing at the moment. So let's move on to another deck. Let's work with the Mystical Shaman Oracle now. Mystical Shaman Oracle. Okay, so 2 cards have come out. I actually feel like what's going on with my nose is cat hair. I do have a long-haired cat here, and I feel like some of that hair might be in my nose. So there's something to do with irritation here as well. That could be, you know, when we get irritated to a certain point by something, and it could be a pattern and behaviour that we've resorted to over and over again. It can become very irritating, and that's a great time to change. By the time that we start to get really pissed off with something, that is the time we can change it, because we've got that like irritation, we've got that energy behind it. So we've got the Sacrifice and the Council. So it's 44 and 11, and I really like these because they're like master numbers, they're repeating numbers, you know, they're double numbers. So I feel like there's a strong message here around asking for signs, asking for synchronicities. So we've got the Sacrifice. I'll show these one by one. We've got the Sacrifice here, giving something away and making it sacred. And I actually feel like when we nip this thing in the bud, we take a step back, we notice that we're acting from an old way of being. Maybe if I put the card over here, you'll be able to see it better. I'm left-handed, so I hold it in my left. Let's do it with the right. But whatever this is, and we come across this pattern and this habit or this kind of behaviour, we can start to then offer it up, make it sacred, release it, let go of it. Maybe there's something in our past, in our childhood, maybe there's an experience that stands out the most, that actually explains why we have these behaviours and these patterns. And I feel like offering up, letting go of, sacrificing that experience in our lives is going to be really helpful, and eventually like doing that is going to help us to not have the hole in the road, so to speak. I just heard there are many people waiting, and by people I actually mean spirit guides. So guides that are in and of spirit. This could be deities that we work with, it could be actually ancestors, it could be, I just heard the Sky Council, so that's interesting. It could be any of these helpers that we can lean on, that we can ask for help moving forwards, and they are waiting for us to ask for help. Because I just heard it's something ancestral, so that's interesting in itself. For those of you who work a lot with ancestral healing, you may already be aware that this pattern, this behaviour, is related to ancestry, and that it is something that's been passed down through a family line, be that the father line, the mother line, or both. So if you're already working with that, then that's great, that's really good, because you're already on track to shift this thing. And I do feel like this hole in the road, the thing that we're seeing again now, is just a little pointer. It doesn't have to be chaotic and crazy and fearful. And, again, we have control over how far we go down that rabbit hole. We can choose to do things differently. And all it is a little message, a little alert. It's like getting a message on your phone, right? So the experiences, like the feelings and the visceral experience that we have, is a little signal. It's like an alarm clock waking us up saying, hey, this thing's still there. Hey, this thing's still there. Hey, you haven't healed this one yet. And that can get a bit old on the healing journey, to be honest, but it's all for the good of us and also for the good of others as well. When we do our inner work and we shift our own energy, our own vibration, we do, because we are a part of the whole, we actually also shift it for everybody else as well, maybe in a small way, but it all adds up to the whole, is what I'm hearing. So ask for help. You may want to do an offering, actually give an offering. I feel like there could be some kind of ritual that could help. Maybe, I just had a vision of wrapping this all up into cloth. So you could maybe wrap some herbs or words down that relate to this pattern or whatever's coming up. Wrap it in a bundle of cloth is what I'm getting, and sacrifice it. Like, you could burn it safely, or you could bury it, like any of those things. I really get like this offering. I just heard give it back, so that's interesting as well. Give it back to the earth is what I'm hearing. Everything comes from energy, from the earth. Energy is never destroyed, it's only recreated, it only is recycled and turned into something else. So whatever this is can be given back, put it back in, and the energy then is neutral. And so it can be formed into something else, and when you're ready, you could invite that energy back as something more nourishing and helpful for you moving forwards. So let's get an Ancient Stones Oracle card. Let's look together. Right, it is this one. There we go. Oh. Okay. Scrying, interesting. Trust your visions, intuition, plant seeds. Well, that's what I was just talking about with the planting seeds, inviting that energy to come back in a different form that's more nourishing. So that really fits with seeds. Let's put that over here. Scrying, intuition, looking into the future. I've got this sense now, because I was talking about trusting ourselves, trusting our wisdom, and our intuition comes in with that. We have a very innate wisdom system. That's what just came through. Something that can help us to move forwards in a clearer way. I actually want to let me just put that down for a second. I'm going to get another card to go with that from the same deck. Trust your visions. So, when I was saying about nipping something in the bud, okay, so 2 have come out. Nipping something in the bud, trusting our intuition, if that's what we need to do and we need to take a step back in order to feel more level, more calm, more safe, safety seems to be a big theme, then trust that intuition. Know that you need to take a break. So I'm going to give an example here because this is what's just come through. Okay, so say there was a potential relationship on the table, so to speak, a relationship opportunity, okay? So it's not necessarily that the triggers that you feel around the relationship are accurate of what's actually happening. Like I said about the attachment styles, for example, it could be like an old thing that's happened that triggers you to not feel safe moving towards this relationship. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship isn't safe. It could just be a projection. So taking the time to sit back, nipping that in the bud, can either mean nipping that relationship in the bud because you know that it actually really doesn't feel safe, or nipping the old behaviour in the bud and not following the line of projection. So I hope that makes sense. So using our intuition actually requires us to get still, to get quiet, and to listen in to ourselves. So if we're going into this like chaotically, I mean, we're busy with other things, we're not going to be able to hear the messages that are coming through from our internal guidance system. So this scrying really is about us looking into ourselves, really noticing that the woman is looking down here. I just get this sense of like looking into our own hearts, even into our own center, and checking in with, you know, what's really happening, what do I really need. But like I said, that could and probably does need time, space, take a step back, nip that behavior in the bud. So then we've got the volcano, relationships express, don't stagnate. So this is quite a powerful card. Really seeing like this charge of energy coming up through here. It's not actually a figure. I mean, there are two figures here, and this is actually, I was just talking about relationships, so for a lot of you, this could be what it is, this could be the case. I saw this as a figure, as a person with their arms up and open, but it's actually not what it is. It's the fissures or the cracks in the ground letting the lava, the magma come up to explode out through the top of the volcano. So what I'm feeling now is, whether this is a romantic relationship opportunity or you're in a romantic relationship, or it's a business partnership or a friendship or a family relationship, something has been shifting and something has been reflected back to us, and there's some kind of like tectonic movement, let's say. So it's like tectonic plates moving, and then there's this crack and this fissure where it's like all of this old emotion is coming up. And the other card is actually See the Beauty. And what I'm really feeling as I was just talking about that is, I mean, this is about gratitude and the sacred is everywhere. This is actually about feeling gratitude, which is difficult sometimes, around whatever this trigger has been, because it's actually releasing a lot of pressure from the past. Wow, yeah, actually this stuff has been there for a long time, and this opportunity, this experience, this relationship, whatever it is shaking that to the surface. And the great thing is about that is when things are shaken to the surface, they can be released. And that's what's happening with this volcano card. So that's really powerful. So we can say thank you. We can say thank you to this experience. We can say thank you to this coming around again, because each time I'm just getting this sense of like a pressure cooker. We can let a little bit more steam off. We can let a little bit more pressure out from the things that have happened in our past. And this does feel like this lifetime. I'm not getting past lifetime stuff. This is stuff that we've experienced in this lifetime that is now getting ready to shift, to be released. And this is what I just sensed then as well, is we've set an intention somewhere along the line and planted a seed, which was mentioned in the scrying card. We've planted a seed in the past for something that we want to manifest, but it's not possible for us to experience that thing and manifest that thing with these old patterns and blocks in place. Interesting. Spirit's like, you want that thing? Okay, you're going to have to get rid of this, you're going to have to get rid of that, you're going to have to let this out, because otherwise I can't give you that. You're too blocked, there's too much push down, it needs to come out. So journaling could help, having a good cry could help, having a good dance could help, movement of any kind, exercise, just to get this energy up and out of the body. So let's pull a card from the Earth Alchemy Oracle. We've got Sanctuary of Light and Mugwort, Portal, 5D Healing Temple and Astral Travel. To me, this feels like it's also being resolved in our dreams. Whatever is taking place is being shifted around in the astral when we're sleeping. Things are being moved around. It's almost like the furniture being moved around. Yeah, I just heard the word, it's rough. Okay, so if you are experiencing some challenging dreams or even nightmares at the moment, just know that it's a part of the process. If your dreams aren't making much sense, do take the time to write them down and see if you can find some patterns and pick them apart a little bit. Mugwort can help with this. Of course, be very aware of your own sensitivities and allergies if you have any to certain herbs. I'm not suggesting or recommending using particular herbs, but mugwort is very good in terms of connecting with the astral, working with dreams, working in the dream space. Some people use it to enhance like lucid dreaming, for example. And you can make it into a tea, or you can burn mugwort as well to stain or smudge a place to cleanse the energy. I'm just getting this sense of us, there's this door that we want to walk through, and it's what I was just saying about wanting to manifest a particular thing. And these seeds we've planted, it's almost like these mugwort plants have come from those seeds. But in order for us to go down this passageway, down this path and through this portal, we've got to let go of this stuff, through the pressure of the volcano. If you want the thing, you've got to walk through the fire, is what I'm hearing, which is always nice. So one card to close out, and this is from the Angels and Ancestors. Final message. She-Wolf, unleash the wild within. So maybe there is something that we can do to shift this energy. Maybe this will be something that happens around the time of the next full moon. Maybe it could be howling is what just came through. Howling, something to do with the voice. Like, I just had this sense of like a crying child within the self. Like a very sad and also very angry and irritated and feels very trapped and stuck. So if this resonates, like if you're doing inner child work and you've got this child that wants to play and also be wild and just do what they want to do and play is the main word that's coming through. Unleashing the wild within. I think I've mentioned this in previous readings. All baby animals play, and they learn through play. There's something about just letting ourselves maybe just roll around on the floor and howl or stretch or crawl around and be very primal. That feels like it will really help to dislodge these old patterns moving forwards. So then I feel like we're going to be in more of a position to decide whether to nip the situation in the bud, or whether it's just that we need to nip an old behaviour in the bud that could be holding us back from an opportunity. Beautiful. So thank you as always so much for being here and listening to these messages, and I hope they've been helpful to you today. This is a collective reading, as I said, so it's kind of general, so if you want a private reading you can find the link in the description box below, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Much love. Bye bye.